Ready when you are. We're live
All
everywhere.
right, let's do it.
What's going on today, John? Welcome on the Bus Driver Experience. Uh,
Thank you for having me. I'm gonna hijack that bus and take it on my book tour in 2021.
Gladly, we'd love to host you on a thing like that. It'd be amazing.
How are
Uh,
you?
uh, I'm good, man. It's been great having live shows going again. The pandemic's been easy for me. I've been busy. I've been getting a lot of stuff done. Been active like crazy. So everything's been good, man. Just trying to handle it all and trying
Yeah,
to find
you
a way.
seem like someone, and I love this. You seem like someone who spins a lot of plates.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah,
that's a good thing and a bad thing. It's a good thing
yeah, of
because
course.
I love
Yep.
life. I love waking up every day, and I love the opportunity to. I'm just excited about everything. I'm excited about the great coffee I'm about to make in the morning. I'm
Oh,
excited
I
when I
love.
when I hit the bed at the end of the night. However, you gotta the balance of that is not completely perfect because
Mhm.
um, you know, I definitely drown myself in all the task purposely, to avoid
Yeah,
feeling, to avoid, emotions or past events. So limiting your self-reflection and reflection time on the stuff. So, that's why I loved your book. I love
mhm.
everything you do on, social media, the posts, the therapists,
Thank you.
and I love the name of the book. How I used to be a miserable fuck. I
Yeah,
read this about.
I actually had a lot of resistance. So my publishers wanted to call it that, and I didn't want to jump on the fuck train. There's a lot of self-help books with the word fuck in it, and I sat with it for a while, and I was like, is it because of that? Why do you not want this? And it was because as a therapist, I didn't want to announce that I used to be miserable, right? Because that would be embarrassing. And so because of that, I said, okay, this needs to be the title, and so there it is.
Why do people not want to, or why do publishers want to use the word fuck? But I mean, fuck is also one of the most derogatory terms. It's
Yeah.
way more of a negative sexual term than anything.
Sure. Sure.
Why did you not want to do it? Why do they want to?
There's a
Not,
wave. Well, they wanted to do it because it was. I used to be a miserable fuck was like the first few sentences of the book, so they're actually taking it from my writing, which is fair. But there's a wave of self-help books in the last couple of years that uses like I think there's one called "Fucking Feelings," or there's also something called a book called "Unfuck Yourself." The really popular one.
that's
The
good.
really popular one is Mark Manson, and he's a talented writer, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck.
Yes,
And
I know
so,
that one.
because there's a lot of these, I didn't want to be another person using the word fuck in a self help book. But they convinced me it's used differently. You're saying you used to be miserable, and it's true. So I was like, all right, let's do it. So
Yeah, I
I
think
like
that
that you
title
did it.
refers way more to you than the
Right,
individual who's going
right,
to read the book. There's a
right,
lot.
right.
If anything, like what you talk about in a lot of your stuff, it's it puts more onus on the individual. It
Yeah,
forces them to really reflect.
yeah,
Where have I seen that recently? It's just with empathy in general. I think our society and our culture lacks so much empathy.
sure.
Reflection. Not just on the day, but how someone else, how some our actions or just life in general can be for someone else, and how to put yourself in someone else's shoes.
Yeah, but with what's happening now, I think it's going to force us to be more empathetic to other
Completely
people.
agree.
And I think that the virus has become kind of a primer. It's like the universe grabbed us and made us sit still for 3 months, as the runway. And then now everything with what's going on in the world, and the protests and all of that stuff, George Floyd, and the Black Lives Matter. It's making room for us to really look at ourselves, for us to practice non-judgment, for us to um, look inward, to hold up mirrors. And you're either going to resist it or lean into it. And if you resist it, I think you're just going to stay hardened. And everything that's pushed down eventually comes surfaces. If
Hmm.
you lean into it, I think you're going to change. I think you're going to then be able to be more empathetic, um, more wide, more non-judgmental, and be able to hold safer spaces.
Totally. Let me get that. Mute that audio. No, I completely agree. In terms of like, hey, COVID's going to force us to look at things. It's just going
Yeah,
to,
sure.
hypersensitize all the issues that were already right there. And I think what we do as Americans is we're so easily distracted, and we have all the tools to be distracted and to be hit with different sensory overload from coming from everywhere. And now, like you said, the COVID forced us to stand still,
Yeah.
to sit there. And now we got to look at all these things and not just look at them, but have a magnifying glass and be it right in your face.
Right.
So,
Right.
yeah, I don't look at these things as negative times at all. You know, it's fortunate and unfortunate that we've been able to jumpstart this, moment of change in our history. And if it's going to be on that level of, empathy, vulnerability, and, growing in consciousness of, our country and the people around us, like that's, you couldn't ask for it to go in a better direction.
Oh yeah, 100%. But I also, I can't speak for business owners. I know it's really hard for people with brick and mortar businesses.
Oh man,
Um,
it's tough.
People who make a living with gratuity, Uber drivers, servers, bartenders, like all the people that are really affected financially. Man, I can't imagine what that's like. But for them, it's really it's been difficult.
I know that's our friends over at Pharaohs. Shout out
Sure.
to them, and I'm glad
Yeah.
they're going to get the gym open and they've been able to stay afloat.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah. It's the
yeah,
smaller, I think it's the smaller gyms, the really,
yeah,
the yoga studios, the gyms that kind of barely get by, and there's maybe 100 members, 200 members. Those
yeah,
gyms that really depend on the classes, and because of the, COVID, it's really, I don't know how they're paying rent and how they're surviving.
yeah. I think again, there's another thing we've been able to take a look at. Like, why is our economy based off of, massively the restaurant industry and like all these like small time service workers who
Right.
don't have consistent pay? Like, if something were like this to happen, the system crumbles and there's no security for these people. Not only is there no health
Yeah.
care for them, but like for a pandemic, but there's just nowhere and nothing they can do now.
Also, the fact that we live on credit, the fact that, something like this happens and
Oh
we
man.
can't survive is, kind of telling as well. So yeah, it's a giant shakeup, man.
Yeah,
It's,
credit
it's, it's,
credit's interesting because I don't think credit is actually, hey, this is how much like how much power you have. It's more of like this is how much debt you can take on.
yeah,
That's how I look at a good credit score. This is how much
right,
debt you can take on. This is how
right,
much more you can't, and you're already fucked. Like
yeah,
it's unfortunate. I mean, yeah. As a millennial, I look at all this stuff like indentured servitude. My generation, especially the men in my generation, being a former college and professional athlete, like, um, and I think there's a quote from Fight Club too. We're a bunch of men raised by women. We're just big babies
hmm
in
hmm
in in this world today. And we were told, or I wouldn't even say we are sold a sack of goods. We were told that this is how life was going to be. This is how it was always going to be. Um,
right,
and then, you take on all this debt from college, and 9/11 happens, a Patriot Act, two wars, financial crisis, a pandemic,
yeah.
and you're told to just like, hey, you don't know what it's like to work hard. You don't know what it's like to do this. And, I think my generation, as much as we're still fighting and we get a um, terrible cut, the way people, chastise us, we're doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think your generation is the most savvy, man. I think your generation is the first generation to kind of rip up old blueprints of not only what success looks like, how you want to live, um, the kind of business you want to build, all of that, but also like even in love, right now, monogamy's on trial. It's your generation that's asking a lot of questions and doing things that I think previous generations didn't have the courage to because we're busy, tracing older blueprints.
Yeah, it's good and it's bad because it's like we're in this disruption, complete disruptive environment. Like you want to think like a tech startup where it's complete disruption. Everything is the molecules, everything is flying all over the place. And like you said, we get to question, how we see race in this country, how we do police brutality, how we
Yeah,
see even monogamy and love and relationships. Um, so yeah, we're really trying to tackle and push everything. Um, what do you see with all that? Why do you see that this generation is being able to do that, and where do you see relationships moving?
I think the injection of technology, right? So just take, for example, the dating app. I mean, I grew up with pagers. I grew up where you had to go ask someone out and possibly get rejected. And I grew up where you had to pick someone up, and you had to wash
Hmm.
your car and put the CD disc changers. You guys are swiping now. You guys have apps for everything. So I think technology has just created endless opportunities. It's also made everything faster. It's also like, like the world that you grew up in. How were you? Like, so did you grow up into the internet and apps and all that, or were you still like a teenager?
I didn't have the internet when I was born. I was born 89,
Right.
so I'm 30. So like, yeah, we got our dial up. I was probably like 8 or 9 years old. I remember trying to play.
Okay, but you were still young.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
But I didn't have a cell phone until I was like 16. I was like, I remember my first girlfriend. She's like, "Hey, pass me your number, like, or who do I call?" I said, "Here's my house number. Ask for Brandon."
Right, right, right.
Someone will answer. You'll find me there. Like I was never all about it. Now, I mean, I'm probably way too attached to this thing. It's sitting
Yeah,
above me
me
as we
too.
speak.
Yeah,
But
but you know what? But all this technology has actually allowed you guys to be creative and ask questions that my generation didn't.
completely, I see the accountability is like heightened and
Yeah,
hypersensitized even more, which is like a great thing, where it's like, oh, hey, where did you get that information from?
yeah,
What source did you get that? I feel like that's a big thing missing now that, when we had to go to high school in college, I mean, we had the feet held to our fire. Like, hey, where did you get this information from? Is this idea yours up to 6 words
mm,
from the text you're getting it from?
right,
If
right.
not, we're gonna expel you and you're fucked. And it's like, shit, I got to do this great. And now it's like the irony of that is like holding that older generation who just, who, even my parents, it's like, Brandon, listen, they don't know how to think critically, or they don't care to anymore, or they
Mm,
don't need to. And they just get bombarded and everything. I'm like, you can't share that article right there. Where did you get this from? That's not,
mm,
like, I know that information. That's not true.
yeah,
So, yeah, like I said, it's been a great thing. I think millennials have been able to, as being the arbiters and being able to assess and manage and look at all this stuff, we have the critical thinking tools. College, all the education system actually taught us something great. And it's now like, I'm blessed to use this stuff and see the benefits of the internet and all that. But, I think that in the end, it was still developed as a marketing tool to get people to
yeah,
click on things and look at things. And I think pornography is one in particular that really pulls, even I would say men majority, like, hey, here's this. You talked about it with dating. You had to go out. You got to wash your car. You had to do this. I
mm,
got to do my hair. Make sure
yeah,
I look dressed and nice because I work from home. I probably work in my underwear all day,
yeah,
and it's like, okay, time to look good and clean up. Oh wait, this biological thing that can get me to orgasm or come, whatever. And now I can just do that in my bedroom, my bathroom, my living room, and I don't have to go out and do this. It kind of like cuts, the sever of, your connection with other people.
yeah. I think the internet connects us, but also disconnects us at the same
Mm.
time. You know, um, yeah. You guys. I think you guys were. And I don't want to say you guys because I'm part of this too. But, I think you guys work really hard and in creative ways, and there's a lot of amazing things happening because of all the tools that you guys have and not being afraid to use them. I'm just watching you now, like I seeing keyboards behind you. You got your headset on. You got that bus. You're doing all these things, and that's kind of like the model these days, And I grew up where it's like you go to school, you be a doctor. You go to school, you become an engineer. It's very narrow and one track. With you guys, it's like, fuck, what I'm doing today, maybe not what I'm going to do tomorrow, and that's okay, and all of that. So it's really exciting.
The generational conflict is just bigger than ever in terms of the Gen Xers, or we say millennial, the baby boomers said, "Hey, you can do anything you want. We can promise you anything." And now that they're at that age mark where they're not sure,
Yeah.
we want to keep it as is. On the way out, rightfully so. We all become a little bit more conservative in our older age, and it's like, wait, listen, you told us anything's possible. We know how to use this thing that you guys invented for us, and you never used properly.
Yeah.
We don't have to go get a regular job every day. We can go
Oh,
and do these things and be
no.
these things and do this and that. I mean, and we question those things as far as, gender and sexuality, like how far we can push the gap. I even have to question myself, like, is it really a problem with someone going off and doing this or being this or saying that? There really isn't, and it's like, trying to find where those biases are your own, like, conservative mindset. I don't mean conservative, as a political basis, but, just you track back to your biases in monogamy or, typical sexual norms. Like, oh, that's just another person. Like, just we're doing that. So trying to tell that older generation, hey, listen, man, we're going to leave you in the dust. You got to move with us or you're out.
Mhm.
We're moving forward. We need you on our bus, and you're either on the bus or off the bus.
Yeah.
The bus is everything. But yeah, I mean, that takes me into you and your book, and I think masculinity.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's so hard not, especially being an athlete, trying not to take on those typical masculine roles,
Mhm.
hiding your feelings, hiding your emotions, especially being an athlete. And I
Sure.
work with a lot of athletes. I talk to a lot of athletes and former athletes. And
So you grew up in locker rooms pretty much, right?
grew up in what?
Locker rooms.
Yeah, I mean, I even grew up with people older than me. I never played with people my age. I was
Right.
playing with 12-year-olds, 16-year-olds as I'm 8 or 12, and like even
Wow.
like freshman year of my high school team, I was the freshman starting varsity. I took kids on the team's brother spots. And,
Wow.
and
Wow.
so I'm in that adult locker room space, 17, 18-year-olds. I'm a 14-year-old. I was like, what, 5'8", 110 pounds, like
Yeah. Yeah.
tiny shrimpy kid.
Yeah.
And it's intimidating, but I mean, it's, you said that locker room almost like prison block mindset. Like, hey,
Right.
you
Right.
can't let anybody get an edge on you. You can't
Yeah.
show any weakness or like it's all toughness. And I think I've completely taken that over into everything. I think a lot of athletes, we do. We never have that time
Absolutely.
to reflect.
Who was your male role models? Was it the players? Was it the coaches? Was it your dad? Uh,
Uh,
who who did
Michael
you like emulate?
Michael Jordan, since age
Mm,
4, I was able to say, like, watching all those VHS tapes. I tell this story all the time. I remember my parents
yeah.
never played sports, so, or they weren't like competitive athletes. And I picked up a ball by 4 years old, and they were like, "Holy shit!" Like, who, how,
Mm,
why?
right.
Um,
Right.
and
So you had a
so
natural gift at age 4. It showed.
yeah, like by 6, I remember specifically like championship game of this little rec league. I call timeout. I tell the coach, listen, we're gonna roll the ball in because the clock can't start. They can't defend us beyond the
Mm,
3-point line. Taylor's going to roll the ball in. I'm going to catch it, shoot the three, win the game. And I was doing that at age 6. So
wow. Oh my God.
uh, I had the crazy confidence and the ego at
Right.
that young age and like able to control and manipulate the game. And then it was just, I was able to look at Michael Jordan even at that young age and say, hey, this is the guy who works the hardest, trains the hardest. If
Mm-hmm.
I can do this, I'm going to be the best. And when I lost, it was like never looking at it as I suck, I'm not good enough, as that guy was better than me. I got to go get in the gym and work harder.
Right.
And it was just that.
So
So,
growth mindset instead of fixed.
excuse me?
A growth mindset instead of fixed.
Oh, completely. Like it was always like, oh, that's the biggest guy on the block over there. That's the best guard right there. That's the
Mm,
guy who I have to emulate or be better than. And yeah, I just looked at it like a job. Like first day at Syracuse, I got Johnny Flynn, All-American point guard. Okay, I'm a freshman. I'm not going to probably get any playing time this year. I got to go after this guy every day. And I mean, go after him, like hurt him. It's just like, that's my competition. If this is a job and I prove I'm better than him every day, that demands pressure on the staff. It demands pressure on, your bosses, the managers, coaches, for you to get that playing spot. So I just went at him every day to improve and get better and stronger. And I
How,
looked at that every way I went to go play.
how do you think that formed you as a man? So growing up in the locker room, playing ball, having that mindset where it's like, I'm only going to get better. How does that pressure? How does all that manifest in you as a man
It,
today?
it's tremendous pressure because I take those
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
mindsets with podcasting. Okay, Joe Rogan's the
Sure.
best podcaster. I'm shooting for the top. I got to be better than him, or I got to say, how do I watch? How do I listen? I'm watching the Tim Ferrisses, other podcasts, listening to
Hmm.
them. Who can I even work on shows so I can
Yeah.
take those growth mindsets to improve those shows, to take those in to improve mine thing. So I love this atmosphere. However, I never get a chance to turn it off. I never get a chance to
Yeah.
reflect.
Right.
It
Right.
comes down to what is, and I think, especially the female relationships in my life, whether they're dating or just friends, like they see it immediately. It's just like, what's your end goal, man? where,
Yeah.
where does it end? Like, where is it that you're satisfied or happy, or where's your target? So, and again, that's where it goes to like drowning yourself out away from with all these other projects and things because it keeps you busy, but you don't get to actually reflect on what it is you do,
So
how you
this
do
is
it.
really interesting because I am like you in that I get obsessed with playing with my Legos and I grab something and try to just indulge in it. I was like that with breakdancing. I was like that with skating and all of that stuff. Um, but you could lose yourself. You could actually, but here's the thing: like even like whether we're talking about Michael Jordan or Tiger Woods, people at that level, they almost don't have a life because everything they do, like their son, the thing that they're building is their son that they revolve around. And so when it comes to things like relationships and stuff, it's hard. They don't. There's no balance.
None at all. I mean, watching
Yeah.
Jordan, like seeing a lot more inside look at, just how popular he was. Like he had to just like keep himself in a hotel room all day because there was thousands of people outside. I mean, it's like, do you
Right.
want that life? And, he kind of learned to be a Batman where it's like, listen, I know I have to sacrifice. I know I have to be this asshole, whether it's to my teammates or this kind of person in real life. I can't speak or say certain things. And he completely owned it. And he said, yeah, that's if you want to do this, you want to be this, you want to win, that's how you got to do it. So,
Are you willing to sacrifice that? Are you willing to run towards your goals, your true north, and build something and get obsessed with things, whether it's podcasting or the stuff you're doing with your bus and all that? But in return, there is no balance. There is no life. The relationships are going to be tough, all that. Or no, are you at a place in your life at 30 where you're like, you know what, I need to kind of move my life chips around, shuffle my deck.
um, it's been the thing reflecting the most on, and being this nomad, I would say, as a bus driver,
Yeah.
traveling all over the place, taking on long distance relationships. They've been tough, and that's where it comes in. Oh, yeah, other people it's hard for, but me, I can handle it. So
Mhm.
going in blind has, ruined some relationships
Sure.
and connections I've had with people, and it's also helped me grow tremendously, and actually reflect like, oh man, like I was a piece of work. I pushed way too hard.
Right.
So now it's trying to find the proper balance. It's learning to say no.
Yeah.
I've definitely been able to do that, and I'd say Stephen Pressfield books are a great way to do that for your business side. I'm reading Turning Pro right now, and it's just like,
Mhm.
oh my God, this guy, you're able to see yourself in the story, but I mean, there's just way too much. I'm like, Jesus Christ, that's me, just
It was near, huh?
not pulling the pin on this, just when he was the truck driver going coast to coast, being around people who weren't as strong skilled as he was, and to be in those places to avoid being in a better arena or a different arena in order to improve his skills on writing, it was like just, damn it. Oh my God, so many
I
times when
gotta
you
I gotta read this. I don't know what book you're talking about, but it sounds
uh
amazing.
it's called Turning Pro.
Turning
Um
Pro.
yeah, I just got it, and oh man, like in order to get over your hump in terms of
Mhm.
business or just how you see yourself in a, professional sense, if you've read The War of Art and all of his other ones, like this
Yep.
one is like I said, I'm 40 pages in, and I'm like just you're laughing and giggling like shit, that's me.
Like I checked it out. So I don't believe in balance. I don't think that you can be. I think you could be good. I don't think you can be great. So, I don't believe in like making life like the four food groups poster that you have to see in elementary school. I think if you want to be great at something, it has to be an obsession, right? But I think you have to have the ability to lose yourself, but to come back. You can't just lose yourself and then not come back. So
Mhm.
I think the way to do it is to thread it into your life. You know, but how can you be great at something, especially with so much noise today? Whether you're an athlete or a podcaster or whatever, if you just have balance in your life, you actually have to get obsessed with your craft to really stand out.
Completely.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, balance almost doesn't work anymore. Waking up at the same time every day or eating at a
No.
certain time, like, but I feel those, I mean, developing those habits creates so much discipline. Like, if there is no balance, I mean, what disciplines can you still take in? I mean, or is that just like still like the disciplines are there, but do you ever hit a regiment, or is it just like you kind of just go with the flow?
Well, I think there's difference between, no, you don't go with the flow because then you'll never get anything done. I think there's a difference between balance and, so it takes routine, it takes daily structure to build anything, I mean, as an athlete, like to transform your body or to get stronger, if you just go to the gym when you feel like it, nothing's going to happen, right? So you
Yeah.
definitely need, and then even in the gym, there's a structure, there's a program, there's something that you do within that 50 minutes. You're not just fucking around. You're not just doing what I did in high school, which is just like, lifting the barbell a couple times and chatting with friends. There's actually a program. But also, I think in life, from when you get up to when you go to sleep, there has to be a structure. But I really believe in designing a life that's kind of targeted towards your state. So when you feel your frequency dropping, you can adjust and change. It doesn't have to be something that is just a plug into a calendar and forcing yourself to white knuckle through things. So when I say turn into a lifestyle, I think if you design your life in a way where it's hanging less on logic and more on how you feel and where you're at your best, then you can get everything in there. You can get relationships in there. You could raise a kid. You could build your empire. You could podcast. You could do all these things, So I think it's less about balance and more about life design.
Mm-hmm. How does masculinity play into that? And like, what do you see wrong with masculinity in
masculinity? I think, I think we are in an exciting time where men are finally using words like vulnerability. Men are finally kind of looking at themselves after the whole Me Too movement. There's conversations now. There's more men on stage speaking about their story, their shortcomings, what it looks like to be a man. So this idea of the Marlboro Man, or I don't know, John Wayne, maybe that's way too far back, but
I know
idea,
those.
right?
I can see those.
The big action star. I think that's fading, and I think the new man emerging is not only ambitious and a leader, but is also like in touch with his feelings and has the ability to say no and to admit his defects, and also is reflective.
I mean, a lot of men see that as defeatist, people that are
Yeah,
holding on to that image, Why is
yeah.
it not defeatist? And why should like people like just like, dude, listen, let it go, man. It's not always going to be this way. You got to change. So I mean, how do you explain to somebody that it's not a defeatist mindset for you to adapt and change?
So my whole thing with men, and then also like this book, it came out of working in nonprofit for 5 years and helping teenagers, and realizing the common thread was the absent father. And so I realized that most of these teenagers were addicts, and it was partly because it started at home, and there was no positive male role model.
Hmm.
It was just mom, and dad was either not in the house or emotionally absent. So I saw the byproduct of that. And I think those kids now growing up and getting better want something different. So what's cool is now there's space for a new man to emerge, right? Now there's space to rip up kind of the old definitions and create something new that's unique to you, you know?
Hmm.
And so to me, that's exciting. To me, that's like, okay, what does the new man look like? What does masculinity look like? And we could redefine that.
Yeah, the absence of the father in the household is it's they would say back from the 60s to I don't know if it was in the Civil Rights Act when there was just much more dependence, or people claim that it was forcing more women to be independent to escape or divorce bad relationships and bad marriages.
Yeah.
And but I mean, there's definitely a correlation to the success of having a father and mother in a household. I mean, I think they
Oh
can
yeah, for sure.
they take percentages and numbers, and I know you've been there and worked with that. So again, I think that's one of the empathetical things we can have as people, to say, hey, listen, this person comes from a single person household, whether it's just a mom or just a dad. They are already at an impediment because they're not going to be it's going to be that much harder for them to have different experiences or take on challenges in life because they only have one parent.
Yeah.
Like those kids might need a little bit more attention. Well, they'll call it help, just they just need someone there, that volunteering your time. And yeah, it is experiencing working with kids, what I've done with basketball all around the world. And you see people just as people, but you see like sometimes the longing that the attention, especially that young boys they want, like, hey, look at me shoot this basket, look at me over here, and just like realizing, reflecting, the attention they want, the approval, and especially.
I wonder if the other side of this is also because that they came from a household where there was an absent parent or no emotional milk or whatever, that basketball became their thing, and it just made them better, right? So that was their escape. That became their obsession. And maybe if they actually had stability, or dad was at home, I wonder if they would be less of a basketball player.
That's an interesting take,
Yeah,
because I think those different catalysts is a great way for people to escape, and I think it's definitely for specific individuals, it was a way for them to do it.
yeah.
But I think in general it's just for young men and young boys especially, like being in that like battle in the trenches, teamwork, communication, um, is just something that whether it's basketball or any sport, or even like a critical thinking math bowl, like it's something that this is what young men need. They need these environments. They need, because this is how they learn to communicate and talk. This is how they learn to develop skills, to be to grow their brains and grow their minds. It's environments like these
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
make them better people. And I think those are big things that are missing. As much as we're talking about men and young boys being more vulnerable, like that doesn't mean those conversations can't happen in those atmosphere environments, because I remember being completely, you know, just completely torn apart by language of coaches, of
Sure.
the
Sure.
things, they say up to college, like Jim Boeheim just saying some of the most brutal things to you that
Yeah.
would just like undress you, just like in front of these people, like, but like,
Well, because these
yeah.
are people that mean everything to you, and every word that comes out of their mouth, you're going to take like the word of God. It matters.
Hmm. But
They become our fathers, right? As an athlete.
if those environments are great for young boys, or just men, or guys in general, what are arenas or facets, or is it just different approaches coaches or those role models can take to present and adapt more vulnerability, especially because you've worked, um, young kids, or teenagers who've gone through these things without fathers, or without, or had these addictions.
Mm. So you mean like what spaces, what areas?
Yeah,
Um,
well, what are ways that we can adapt those things in there? What are different, like, or add on to them where these are already good spaces that we aren't even utilizing enough, because there's accessibility. You got to pay a coach, and you got to go pay a
right.
team or a
Yeah.
league to go in this. That we're even cutting off these things where I think, like, where the anthropologists think we developed language was hunting, and when we started hunting meat and animals, like all that communication was where we developed languages, because we had to tell this person to go around the other side of the hill
Right.
to spear the animal over here and to get
I,
this
I,
information.
I think the first place, because it can be scaled, is the internet and social media. Now we are able follow people that we respond to, resonate with. That person doesn't have to be a movie star. That person can be your neighbor. And so if you follow men who resonate with you, then suddenly you have spaces to create new definitions, right? So um, an example of this is like The Rock, right? Like he's got a gazillion followers. And when I think about like The Rock, I don't really see him as an action hero and a celebrity and all that. I see him as someone who's creating a dialogue and kind of redefining man. I know he's like very big and muscular and all that, but also he has a lot of honest moments, right? He also kind of speaks from his heart. And so just who you follow on social media can be that space, right? And also virtual groups. I have a whole thing called the lab, and I've run virtual live groups. So Zoom. So
Yeah.
virtual spaces is now a real thing. The internet is a conduit directly into your phone and into your house. So all of that, but also the place that you transform your body. So you and I both work out the same place. So back to 10 years ago when CrossFit started, it was a very a container for other men to sharpen themselves, right? Or if the environment was toxic, for other men to not, not sharpen themselves. But I think fitness is still a huge container where men directly have influence over each other.
Yeah, I mean it's unfortunate or it's weird because we live in a bubble because like exercising is just like a thing. Like this whole pandemic happened. I got tires at the house, sledgehammers, like a
Yeah, yeah,
barbell, like
yeah.
just I'm still making it happen. Like that's the thing I gotta go do every day.
It's
But
it's a lifestyle. It's become a lifestyle.
yeah, but
Yeah,
we look at the numbers and was it 30% of the country is obese,
right.
almost 40 to 50% is diabetic. You know, again, that's onset of diets. I don't know how much that except type 1 diabetes, which is much way more
Mhm.
um, heretic. You can inherit it. It's genetic.
Yeah,
The that stuff's still missing. Like there's so much of it that doesn't actually happen. Going to Pharaohs and seeing everybody exercise, you'd think like this is your model and mold of the country. It's even for us to go outside and say, how do we advocate for these things? How is it more important? You said like social media is such a great thing, but you know, creating that lifestyle and discipline is like the hardest part.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
I don't think we're meant to do it alone. I like the idea of doing it in tribes, and also going back to fitness. LA and California is not the norm. We're freaks. Go to go to Georgia, go to somewhere else, the Midwest somewhere, and you'll see kind of the average diet and
Yeah,
the
San
average.
Antonio, Texas. I'm not knocking on you, San Antonio, but it's like the place with the most obesity and overweight people in
Right,
the
right,
country. Like you just
right.
go through the middle of the country, and it's like different.
Anywhere where you start with nachos, you start with that's the app, that's the bread they bring out is nachos, and then from there you order your food.
Oh yeah, yeah. So I really hope again, and I like what you said there about it. You don't have to go into it alone. I think that's something that people are not just afraid of, but people look down upon that. Like even like here, I have the house I live in. There's 4 or 5 other people. Most of them work from home as well, and it's like everybody still kind of got the back. We were friends with this before. Some people are new and moved in, but like going in this together, like, hey, I need
Yeah,
help. Look at this. New project or proposal. Can you take your eyes on this? What do you guys
yeah,
like? It's There's nothing wrong with that, and people are scared of it. And I think it's even our country's scared of it because we're told with this mindset of capitalism that hey, you got to take out the next big guy in front of you, kind of like how I looked at basketball.
right.
And like, but like you said, like when you get to that point, Jeff Bezos is the richest guy in the world, but now he's going for $1 trillion. Like, when
Right.
is it going to be enough, and how much is it with the people around you that are? If you're living in a gold-plated palace, but everybody else around you is homeless or has nothing, like, what are you doing it for? And how much is
Well,
that
you
worth?
also kind of create your own island, like you're so far to relating with another human that I think they could also be very lonely. I think we're tribal creatures. I know for me, ever since I was 12, when I joined a breakdancing crew, um, I was always a better version of myself if I had an awesome tribe, if I was a part of something. So whether it was breakdancing or skating, we had a few like a crew that would skate with, or CrossFit. I did that for a while. Um, that that shapes you and pushes you more than you being by yourself in the basement. And I don't think we're wired to do things alone. I've always been happier in communities. So so now today we have virtual communities. So I don't think there's anything better than in person, but even virtual communities now there's no reason to do anything alone.
Hmm. Do you still board?
No, I wish I could, but I can't. I used to be able to all over trash cans and stuff, and I can't even
Sweet.
get down the street. I'd eat it.
So for my 30th, like I've never owned a skateboard.
Mhm.
I've surfed on and off,
Yeah.
skimboarded because I'm from Florida, so that's all we
Oh,
got.
I used to skimboard. I to love that.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah,
It gets such a negative, like, surfers look down upon it,
yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
you got
yeah,
no waves breaking, all you got the shore.
yeah.
It's
It's hard, man.
I remember it was 17, we got the state championship tournament. I was skipping school and I was skimboarding at the beach
Yeah.
and I land on my shoulder and I just like sprained it, there was nothing too bad. I'm 17, I'm indestructible. But, I was always pretty honest and straightforward. I'm talking with the administrators, like, just what the hell is wrong with you? You're supposed to be playing college ball. Like, where's your head at? We got states
Yeah.
next week. The first time I've been to states in 50 years. But no, I bought a board for my 30th, a longboard, and it just, oh man, it just been great to get me out to the beach every day, just heading up and
Oh
down the
yeah.
boardwalk.
Yeah.
And yeah, just like that though. It's just like, oh man, I got to be better than my buddies. I got to be better than the people around me. I gotta be cruising on this. I can't fall off. I gotta be fucking solid. But
So
it's
the athlete in you kicks in, huh? So look, there's a longboard behind me right next to the Christian Asoy skateboard. But
I see it.
uh, yeah, so even with the longboard, because that was for recreation, right? And even with that, when you got on it, you suddenly put on your competitive hat. You had to be better.
Absolutely.
God,
Um,
when I hear this in you, because obviously that's definitely the athlete in you. There's a part of me that is like envious of that, right? Because I don't know how much I have that, maybe a little bit. But then there's also another part of me that is glad that doesn't have that because God, the pressure of that, like everything I do, whether it's driving my car or riding a skateboard, the pressure of wanting to be better or the best, that's got to be tough.
1000%. I
Yeah.
think, yeah, that's what everybody else says that does get close to me, that I
Yeah.
even allow in, because I've realized too, like I'm actually so restrictive of like how open and how open up, like
Right.
that composure and poise you learn in those high intensity situations. Like
Sure.
even like, I remember we're driving the bus and we were driving to Chicago. They had a big event for the company.
Mhm.
We they rebuilt a gymnasium out there, like $100,000 gymnasium, etched in the floor, brought like an NBA All-Star experience to this, underserved neighborhood on the southwest side of Chicago. It's an amazing experience, like to be a part of. Like it was incredible. But anyways, like we're in a blizzard from Albuquerque to Amarillo, like one of the toughest blizzards I've been. I've driven buses and been in
Mhm.
crazy situations everywhere, but just like we have a time crunch. We're already behind schedule. Everybody in the bus is freaking out, and it's like, all right, no, no, got this bus. Tighten up, poise. It's like
Yeah.
Jim Beheim, Hey, you can curse and yell at me, whatever you want, in the locker room. I don't care if you hate me or not, but on the floor, none of that. We're on the court. It's composure and poise. So just being able to push those feelings, emotion down, put it on the shelf right here
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
deal with later, and you get people through it, But at the same time, like the pressure, it's I don't know why, but I somehow am still like a little addicted, and I like it.
Sure. Sure. So what are you doing now to be like that, but in a healthier way, or are you not?
No, no,
How do you manage that?
there. I don't. I just continue to take it on a daily. Because at the same time, it offers me so many opportunities in life
Sure.
to
Yeah.
take on this, to be that person. But it gets to that point, like you said, it's not sustainable. I understand it's sustainable, but for doing it for so long, unsure where to start and where to go with that, because
Yeah.
like we talk about, we're talking about the rate of change happening in our society and all these things, and even from the individual to the collective of all of us. But even myself, like everybody else out there, who's having a hard time, it's like where to start, where to go. We're
Yeah.
all trying to find that launch point, and at the same time I'm trying to hit a home run on that launch point, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Yeah.
just get on base. just just get to first and we can go from there.
Just get on base. That should be a T-shirt. Just get on base. Yeah, man. And you know what? I'm 47, so I'm much older than you. And of course, when I was running a club in Hollywood and I was I was a screenwriter. I was very obsessed with trying to be the best. Then I got married. You can't try to be the best in relationships. That's really tough because it's not just about you, right? And now I don't know. I'm still ambitious. I still want a lot of things. I'm still building, but I've definitely there are other things that matter more to me. And I love when we started this, you were like, dude, I just love waking up. I love putting on the headphones. I love drinking coffee. And that's kind of where I'm at. I actually love a lot of the smaller things in life, meaningful conversations. I've kind of went from chasing shiny things to just hanging my life more on meaning, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is that what you did? From, you mentioned, the first marriage you had to trying to compete and be the best, to try, I know, being writing screenplays and,
Yeah.
chasing all these things. Like, is that what you did to, kind of say like, hey, I need to enjoy those more moments. I need to enjoy more of these smaller things.
Yeah. So
Like,
what
what did
happened
you
was,
do?
well, it was a divorce. So it was once I got a divorce, I kind of left with nothing except my pillow, and I had to start life all over again. So I didn't have any friends. I didn't make friends because I didn't think they were important. Before it was all about selling screenplays and trying to become successful to get that house in the hills and all of that. The
Yeah.
uh, the Range Rover Porsche combo. Growing up in LA, and once I got a divorce, I was like, oh my God, it's now time to kind of shake my life edge a sketch. So I had no friends. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was getting therapy myself, and my therapist is the reason why I decided to stop screenwriting, because it wasn't making me happy, and I wanted to become a therapist. And I said to myself, if I can't move people by the masses, I'll do it one at a time. And I've always loved psychology. So I went back to school at 35, got my master's, and then I was frustrated with that because it didn't fit who I was. So I wasn't the guy with the shirt and tie tucked in. That wasn't me.
Hmm.
And so I started a blog called The Angry Therapist. And when I was working in clinical settings in treatment centers, I felt like Clark Kent pushing the mail cart. And then when I came home and started playing with the internet and blogging and stuff, and this was on Tumblr 10 years ago, I felt like Superman. I felt like I was given a cape because I had a voice. And so I just felt like, okay, this is more my truth. And I just fed the shit out of that. I got obsessed with that. And then that led to, books. And now I have teams and a coaching company and all this. And finally have built a life that like has a lot of freedom. And, I'm finally able to design my days in a way that's just like, I have so much gratitude now. Like I don't punch the clock anymore. I punch the sky, which sounds cheesy, but um, that's how I feel.
No, it's amazing. It's, you know, to go back, to even just even go back to school at 35, but also just being able to look at and reflect and say, this isn't making me happy.
Yeah.
Am I willing to admit that? Am I willing to acknowledge that? And am I willing to, you know, start fishing and trying something new? And
Well,
I'm
that's the first domino, is that acknowledgement. I was very disconnected with myself, so it was in me reconnecting to myself where I got the courage to now do things that I didn't have courage to do before.
yeah, this is what I work with a lot of college athletes with. Like I'm just offering like 5 podcast scholarships. Like, hey, I'm gonna help you create and launch your own podcast. Whether
Mm,
you're a college athlete or former college athlete, I'm gonna help you do it for free. Here's the opportunity. Reach out to me. So I'm helping 2 kids right now.
that's awesome.
Just get it launched and get it going, because I think once basketball, and like you mentioned, like whether you're an athlete or whether you're just a person, your identity you stick to for you it was till you were 35 to say like, hey, listen, nope, I'm going back to school. This is what makes me happy. Like like you're kind of forced out of sports due to
Right.
percentage job opportunity. So it's
Right.
like a lot of guys just think like I have to do something with basketball. I'm just going to be a basketball trainer in my hometown.
Mm,
My thing I hate for athletes, and athletes, I'm saying this for you, and I know a bunch of you too do this, like who are just like, hey, Enterprise rental car, come over and be a sales rep for us. And I'm like,
oh yeah.
guys, don't sell out. Do not go there. You're you have so much to offer and so many things you can give back to people.
That's basically giving up. That's basically telling yourself that, okay, I was an athlete. I'm now killing that person, and I'm gonna go, sell tires or do whatever. You're gonna turn invisible.
And I don't want that for them.
Oh,
Even,
sad.
as much as I don't want it for me, it's like, no, guys, I got your back.
Right.
Get on the bus. We're gonna take you to where you want to go. We're gonna help you get to where you want to go. And I dealt with this myself.
Mhm.
After I tried to even make a comeback after coaching, and I had like 5 to 7 serious concussions. I had a contusion on the brain. I got
Wow.
hit so many times. Um, Back spasms, just crooked back, neck, a herniated disc in the neck and the back. It was just, and then I tried to make a comeback. There's this thing that happens, the TBT. and it's
Hmm.
like a $1 million cash prize basketball tournament. It was like the Syracuse team they put together invited me to play the first year, so I'm like,
Uh,
okay, I'm coming back. One
right,
more
right.
last run.
Wait, how old were you when this happened?
25,
Oh
26,
wow, still young. Right, right.
and I ruptured my kidney in a $10,000 cash prize
Holy
basketball game.
shit. Oh
And
my God.
rupture, tear of the kidney, and it was like just, oh man, that I don't wish that upon everybody. When your body goes into shock like that, and
Wow.
it's just hard to breathe, or you
Hey, how
can't.
did that happen? Just aggressive, playing aggressively? Like,
No, no, it wasn't even like an intentional hit. So I was born with hydronephrosis, or they thought was hydronephrosis. So I was
Mhm.
never supposed to even play contact sports,
Oh,
infections my whole life. There was like a surgery when I was 3. They were like, should we have surgery or not? The board was split because when they used to do kidney surgeries, they would cut you like in the middle of your body all the way around like a can. So,
right.
the board was 50-50. My parents opted not to do it. And, even though it was supposed to contact sports, I did. And I made it this far. And I guess my body just being in that state of like just hyper training again, two
Hmm.
or three times a day I'm playing and working. I was working in Kuwait. This happened out of the country too.
Wow.
Um, like some guy was just setting a screen and I just rubbed off on it and it just popped that kidney. And
Oh, jeez.
yeah, was in the hospital for a week there. There's no pain medication because of, certain Islamic laws and Sharia law. We can only give certain pain medications with opioids to certain people, or else we think you're a drug addict. And I'm like, so I couldn't even get pain medicine. It was a week in the
Wow.
hospital, and my kidneys like were just like being squeezed like a water being squeezed out of a rag. That's what it feels like when you rupture an
Was
organ.
that the defining moment for you? Was that, when your life took a turn? And
It was for me because I was coaching basketball in the Middle East, and it was like, okay, like now I definitely can play. Anyway, I still play now.
right,
I had surgery a few
right.
years, like a year or two later, but for me it was I eventually went down to South America and set up a whole ayahuasca ceremony. Like I'm going all the way in now. Like let's prep and plan for this for 6 months. What's going on in life? How you see relationships, love, basketball, like
Yeah,
just
yeah.
really.
So that was the game changer. That was your first domino.
No, that was definitely it was a big domino, but it was like
Okay.
domino like 2 through 5. The first one was after I got a concussion in Rochester playing for a minor league team, the
Hmm.
Rochester Razor Sharks, and some 6'9" guy just gets a rebound. I think I'm about to get the rebound, take off, and go down, and he lands elbow on the top of my head like this, and
Oh,
I got knocked out on that one, and it was
wow.
just yeah, like for 2 weeks, like I had to. I wouldn't say hearing voices, but like it
Yeah.
was just like I remember went right back into coaching after I got cut there, and it was like just okay, class is over. I was teaching different physical education classes in like preschools. Like well, like I gotta go. Like I can't even like focus and concentrate. And so it was just like all the research, changing diet up. I was in
Yeah.
keto for a long time from
Wow.
that moment on, just for brain health and just changing the way I ate and
We're talking about basketball, and it sounds like we're talking about MMA fighting. The injuries that you're talking about, I'm like, how does that even happen? Holy shit.
I play hard, I play fast.
Yeah, that's I could see that, man. I could sense the energy as you're telling me your story.
It's
Oh, wow.
like the moment like people don't realize momentum is like a sign it's like a
Yeah,
it's a thing. There's a
yeah,
scientific equation for it. And
sure.
so, that mass times velocity, I don't have that much mass, but I ran a 4.3 in college. So it's like I can move on the court as
Big.
quick as can be. So,
Wow.
you go to the basket on a 6'9", 280-pound
Oh,
guy,
yeah, the momentum behind that.
you run into him or you get
Yeah.
your legs taken out and you fall like in Ukraine, some kid took my legs out on a layup and I fell on my head and neck here.
Wow.
And and there was another moment right there where it's just like I already had a bunch of pills from doctors that I went to because I already had these problems. And it's like, I need to keep
Mm.
this basketball job. I want to make sure I get signed while I'm out here with the team I'm playing with. And it's like, I remember being in Poland and popping like, I think I was on 5 pills for that game. It was,
Wow.
and I won the all tournament, which is like MVP All Star of the tournament. And I was just like, talking with my girlfriend at the time on Skype after, and just like I don't even remember that conversation, even though it was after the game, and it was just like, yeah, this is not good. This I don't want to do this, and I don't want to be this. Like, there's got to be
Yeah.
you can't play the game like that. it's incredible you can do that, but like that is not what it's for, and that's not why you
Right.
did this. So
Right.
that was one of those two were like first real big moments, but like just
Yeah.
whoa, like time to go back to the chalkboard.
So let me ask you this, and maybe we could end on this.
Okay.
What's next for you? Do you know? Are you still exploring?
Still,
What's your obsession?
um, it's taking that energy I have that you were able to pick up right when we started the show,
Yeah.
and you know transferring that energy, or lighting the fire of that energy in other people, college athletes, kids, adults. Like, listen, like traveling has been such a big thing for me. I've been grateful to travel. So I've seen the worst things around the world. I've seen the best things around the world. We live in an amazing place.
Yeah.
Americans are the most privileged, lucky people in the world.
Sure.
What we do here ripples out to the rest of the world. There's no other protests that or events that happen around the world that we protest here. We got people in 75 countries protesting Black Lives Matter,
Mhm.
George Floyd. Like, when we sneeze here, the rest of the world gets a cold. Like, it's
Right. Right.
I say it's like it's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I told this story yesterday. 13-year-old girl who's asking with a hijab on about Coachella and all these things as watching the live stream before class, and it's like you don't realize the culture and the art that we impact the rest of the world. So I kind of really want to be a conduit of that. I love doing that with the show, the content I create.
Mhm.
Being a part of this Hoop Bus project is, who knew that taking on this character, the bus and basketball, would be such a great thing. So, continuing to keep my options open, and I really just want to, not to be the personality, but just be, the individual that continue to impact people, whether it's through social things,
Right.
the content,
Yeah.
and I love rolling up my sleeves and getting dirty. Like, hey, let's hit the ground. What is it we're going to be doing? Going to
Yeah.
be, starting a new
See that.
project.
I see that on your social. The word that comes to my mind is a word I use a lot, especially with my coaches, is a catalyst. You're a catalyst.
Yeah, and I don't know how yet to, what the final version of that still looks like.
Sure.
Just being this creative now, like, it's 3 years old. I picked up a microphone 3 years ago, a camera 2 years ago, and the opportunities and my you know with a desire to be good at it, or to
Mm.
be the best at it, is giving me so many amazing opportunities and things. So I don't know what the final piece of that looks like, but um, I'm able to take care of myself, financially, and every day,
I think doing it without knowing what the final piece looks like is rare, and I think that's kind of a new definition of what success, entrepreneurship, whatever that looks like. Not focusing on the scoreboard, not focusing on the corner office, but more on the journey. And so you actually practicing that in life. I think a lot of kids, and people who follow you, that in itself is an inspiration, right? So not putting weight on where you're going to go, but putting weight on you going there, I think is really interesting.
yeah, and if I can lead by example
Yeah.
by doing all those things, whether they be as absurd as possible, and I'm not afraid
Yeah.
to do
Yeah.
those absurd things, like finding a cocaine lab in Colombia and making cocaine from scratch with these drug dealers there. Like, hey, this is how
Right.
this is a drug that people in the U.S. and the U.K. fuels their nightlife, and this little farmer here is making this from out of plants that he's never going to do or never use, and just like I'm actually interested in the story
Mhm.
of this plant and where it comes from, and then like seeing the gasoline and the phosphorus and everything that goes inside of it,
Right.
you're like, oh
Right.
my god.
One of
And
the things I live by, and speaking of bus, um, is to build the bus while I'm driving it. And I've always thought that that was a defect of mine, but in the last 5 years, I realized that it's a gift. And the stuff that I'm doing now, a lot of it wouldn't have happened if I didn't just do it and worry about, how I'm going to do it while I'm doing it. So building the bus while you're driving it is kind of like my motto, um,
I
which
love
is
that.
which is what you're doing, literally too. Yeah.
Dude, first of all, I love the motorcycle thing. I gotta get on the Pharos motorcycle gang.
Yeah.
I gotta get a license.
Yeah.
That's like my next big thing, to get a bike.
God,
Um,
it scares me, man, because you have so much energy. It's like, dude, if you get a bike, we got to take it easy. But yeah, it's easy. You just take the motorcycle course. I started with the 620. I now have an 1800. And it's one of the things that I love the most in life is just to go for a ride for 10-20 minutes, and it's my meditation machine. So there's a lot of us with motorcycles, so get your bike and we'll do it in like a tribe.
Dude, I'm so ready. And again, I know everybody is so scared for me to get one of these, but like I'm not going to be riding it down the lane lines of the I-10.
No, 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 no,
I'm
no.
going north on the 2 to the
Yeah, yeah,
134,
yeah.
like out
Yeah,
of town,
it's
east to
canyon,
Joshua.
right, right, right. Now you're not doing wheelies from stoplight to stop. Yeah, it's a long ride. It's PCH, it's hugging the canyons, that kind of shit.
Yes, it's Hunter Thompson style.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
too relatable or try to model Hunter Thompson as well. So it's just like with like writing how he lived his life, like way too close to it. But like another thing is when he writes on the motorcycle and writes about it, just
Mm,
buy the ticket, take the ride, and just we're off.
I love it, man. There's another T-shirt. Buy the ticket and take the ride.
Dude, thank you so much for
Yeah,
jumping on. I love the conversation. Ready to have you back on again whenever.
yeah.
Please let people know where they can book a session with you, join all these different virtual rooms that you're working on. And I know they get the book on Amazon, but if there's another place that you want to direct them to buy that, let them know.
No, you get my books on Amazon, and then it's you can just find me at the Angry Therapist across social. Yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Dude, not a problem.
Yeah,
Anytime, like I said, you're welcome back. And I'll definitely be seeing you at Pharaoh's.
yeah. I'll see you at the
I,
gym.
I need that motorcycle stuff too. If you could send me over the how-tos.
Oh, for sure.
Uh,
For sure.
it, how long do you think it takes?
It only takes a weekend to do the course, and
Well,
then you just go to DMV and you get your license, and then you're off. Then you go buy a used bike or a new bike, and then you just. I took Pete into a giant parking lot and got him on his first bike, and then now he's all good.
yeah,
So we just practice around the streets, and then he caught it really quick. They're so easy to ride.
amazing. Well, I'm going
Yep.
to sign us out here. Thank you guys, everybody, for tuning into the show. Remember, like and subscribe. I hate plugging myself, but it's how people find these shows, how they
Yeah,
get to
for sure.
hear these conversations, like the conversations we had today. Um, Go check out John's book. It's great. Especially, if you're as masculine of a man as you think you are, or I think I am. It was a great book to read, reading it 2 or more times before I had him on the show again today. There's a great opportunity to reflect on, how you see yourself and how you see yourself as a man in the world. So definitely go check out that book. Check out his Instagram page. And yeah, thank you everybody for tuning in as always. You're either on the
Yeah.
bus or off the bus.
Thank
Peace.
you. All right, man. Be well.
One sec.
Okay.
No, I was just stopping the stream right there.
Okay.
Because we were live, so I had to do my whole little
Oh, that's right. I forgot.
I hate doing it.